So we've worked quite a bit already on annotating, and let me kind of show you. Weird. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let me kind of show you how I created this. So, sorry, I didn't realize the gray was so gray in the back. I didn't realize the gray was so gray in the background. But what I have is I have the passage divided up paragraph by paragraph. And so when we annotate, we're going to annotate and kind of look at analysis kind of at the same time. All right, so we're looking for choices, right? The choices that were made. And I'm going to show you a few more than just our appeals. I'm going to show you a couple more. But as we read, I'm going to ask you questions. And so the answers to these questions are going to lead you to analysis and not summary. And so what happens a lot of times is when we have evidence, what comes after it for most of us is summary of that evidence. And so all you did was give me a book report. So what I need us to get to is analysis. So these questions do that. All right. All right. So let's look at the first body paragraph, and let's just look at anything that kind of stands out to you before we look at the questions. So today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist attacks. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat, but they have failed. Our country is strong. Okay, before you look at the questions, I mean, you probably already looked at them. Turn to your partner, find two pieces of evidence or two things that you like. You may not know what to call it, but find two things in there that you like or that you want to label. I'll give you like a minute or two to do that. Ready, set, go.
Victims part. So they failed.
Okay. Talk to me like. And the thing is it may not be called like ethos, logos, pathos, right? We can look at what else we could call it, but there may be other things in there that don't fall under the field of like ethos, logos, pathos. So what are a couple of pieces of evidence in there that y'all liked that stand out to you?
Like the hour.
Okay, the hour. I like that. So one of the things that I always talk about when you see repetition, it's the repetition of a word, but it's also what is attached to that word, right? So you have our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom. Is that clear for y'all?
Yeah.
Okay. So those things are like connected, right? So there's a reason why that repetition is connected to something else. These are down here, what I call a little lower. These are called collective pronouns. So a pronoun, first person, second person, third. And I talk about collective pronouns as the third case, right? First person is I, me, you, or no, I, me, our. Us is also first person because you're including yourself. Second person is you, right? Third person is them, they, so it's outside. So if we do a collective pronoun, that's going to be first person because it's me, including everybody, right? When I talk about our. All right, I like that. Anything else that y'all saw in there that you like?
How is describing the victims of sanitary businesses?
Yeah, so I love when we're doing analysis, I call it a list, right? Because that's what it is. When we have a list, there's like automatically 3 or 4 sentences of analysis that you can find with it. So you have airplanes or offices, that's the first thing, so that's the location, right? And then after you have the victims. And the list is in there, right? Because you have this common list. Secretaries, businessmen, and women. So you have the repetition. I always put a heart around conjunctions because it just stands out more to me. So businessmen and women. So you have the repetition of and, right? Military, federal, moms, dads, friends, neighbors. I like that. So that's a list. I like that. So we have collective pronouns up here. We have a list down here. Anything else?
Like the moms, dads, friends, and neighbors, it just brings it down to like a personal level.
Yep, that's what we're gonna get to that too. That's some of the analysis. Yep. Anything else in there that you like?
Is our contribution on the day?
Okay, this short sentence. Yep. And really, what it is it's like contrasts what has happened, right? Okay. You also see this like pictures of airplanes flying. What would you call that in lit? Like in literature?
Imagery.
Yeah, it's imagery. If we're talking about nonfiction, we would talk about imagery too, but we would also talk about action verbs because what makes it imagery is the verbs, right? Fires, burning, so the burning is the action, right? The flying, burning, collapsing, right? So those are all imagery. And then what is disbelief, sadness, and anger? So these are both lists. So we have lists here too. Anybody think about like what that might replicate? Disbelief, sadness, and then anger. They are emotions. It's grief, yeah. It's the idea of grief, moving through grief, right? Okay. All right, so now let's look at, I like to do this one because it's very simple to understand. It's not difficult to like read or understand. So let's look at the first question. How does Bush's description of ordinary victims appeal to a shared human emotion? So we're going to look at description of being like a term that we would go back to, an appeal, and a human emotion. So what does it mean, like a shared human emotion?
So it's something that everybody feels.
Yeah, so it's like, and at this time, I mean, like y'all weren't even a thought, but like at this time, it was, in my whole life, it was the most patriotic and united as a country that I have ever had in my lifetime, in my half a century of life. Because we, don't laugh at me. Y'all supposed to go, oh, no way. Let me try that again. That's like all the life that I've like lived over this last like half century.
No way.
Thank you. Okay, so why does it appeal to that shared emotion? So even if it wasn't, like the attacks happened in like 4 different spots. So me in Texas, how am I sharing that emotion? I what? Empathy, sympathy. Okay, so ordinary victims. So where would you say the ordinary victims are? Landon? Yeah, the mom, dad, friends, and neighbors. So why does that description of those ordinary victims, so that would be like moms, dads, friends, and neighbors. I mean, I would almost say too, it would be almost all of them. Secretaries, businessmen and women, like it's not naming people or naming like the CEOs of companies, right? So how does that list or those names apply to like how we all make us all feel the same?
I think it helps you realize that this like shouldn't happen to anyone.
Okay, I agree. What, and how does that idea of listing those people, that it could be a businessman, it could be a mom, it could be your neighbor.
Because all those people will relate to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So in that list, like everyone is connected to someone in that list. And I don't mean like connected as in like they know them, but even me in Texas, like, do I know a friend or a relative that is a businessman? Yes. Do I have federal workers in my family? Yes. Right? Like, do I have a mom and a dad? Yes, and used to. And then friends and neighbors. Do I have friends and do I have neighbors? So because I can relate to those people, right, then I have that shared sense of like grief. But Carlo, going to what you said, we talked about, do you know the difference between empathy and sympathy? What? Go ahead.
Empathy is like understanding another person's emotion without actually going through the experience.
Switched.
Oh, that's
Sympathy. So sympathy is like you're sorry for someone without experience. So if somebody like lost their dog, I mean, it's been 40 years since I've had a dog. So at this point I'd have sympathy for them because I don't really remember what it's like to like own a dog and get like connected to a pet and then them die, right? That's sympathy because I don't have that same connection. Empathy means you went through the same thing or similar. So in this case, even though I didn't physically go through it, realize that like I can still tell you what my classroom looked like when I was there. I would say that we all experienced in some way or other because from like the minute that it started happening, all TVs were on. And back then we had a little tiny TV that was like hung up in the corner of the room that I had to like turn the dial. I had to pull it on and then like turn the dial. I mean, it was long ago. So we all got to watch it. So I would say this one is probably more empathy. That's how we connect to that shared emotion, right? It didn't really matter where you were. You could still connect to one of those people. And so what would we, what list would this be on the 3 pages that we have of appeals? Which one would this be on?
Ethan.
I would say it's more pathos. I'm just trying to look at it. So, I mean, I would look at the complex emotion because we label it as like empathy. Oh, sympathy's on there and empathy's on there, right? So I would probably say it's more like empathy. So that would be pathos. But we would talk about it not as an appeal to pathos, but as an appeal to like empathy of everybody. All right, look at the next one. Why might labeling the attacks as evil strengthen his moral authority? So go to ethos, and we're looking at different types of ethos and how we're appealing. So his morality, his values, his shared values, his beliefs. So turn to your partner. Why labeling it as evil? Does that help strengthen his moral authority? Meaning, as a president, we're hoping that he's going to make a moral decision that is like of our values, like of our values of our country, right? So how does labeling it evil attach to like his ability to make a moral decision? Talk to your partner real quick. Okay, so notice that it's like evil, despicable, right? Evil and despicable acts of terror. So despicable acts of terror, I mean, there's no good acts of terror, but like evil, despicable, how does that help his like decision? Paxton?
Because it's not like we use a clear-cut line, but actually makes it clear-cut. Anything that opposes Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're labeling it as evil because that is evil is the opposite of good. And therefore, what did you say, Paxton? Like it's part of our moral, like morality. How?
Oh, but it strengthens his moral authority because
You said something about like a line or like.
oh yeah, it's like not clear cut usually, but when he makes it clear cut, it's easier to walk to the good side.
Okay, good. So he does that. He does separate. I kind of call it like the us versus them, right? Too. So clear cut of who is good and who is bad. And I think that also kind of goes back to this shared human emotion, because if we all believe that like they are evil, automatically when somebody hurts you, hurts your family, hurts somebody you know, what do you automatically want? Revenge. I mean, it's a natural American instinct, right? Like revenge. So that's a shared emotion too. And when we have a clear-cut line, we know who is who. I like that description. That was good. All right, so then moral authority, that ties to what? Yeah, it ties to the president, but like out of our appeals, what would we say? Ethos, yep. So notice how I don't, it's much higher language and a much better analysis when instead of just saying like an appeal to ethos, you're now saying that we're appealing to like his moral authority. And really it's the moral authority of the country. Yeah, what else, Parker?
I just, how come that would be like pathos? Cause
Okay.
I'm just confused.
No, it could be like, so I don't think that there's ever a clear-cut line, right? So then what like emotion would you say is connected to that, like that moral authority?
I guess like revenge or something like that.
Okay, is that moral though?
Oh.
I mean, but I like, this is the thing of why I like rhetorical analysis and what we're doing is because as long as you can, let's say you do see it as an emotion, right? As long as you can apply a clear emotion to it and tell me how it connects, then your analysis works. Fincata, were you going to try to find an emotion?
Yeah, I was gonna say indignation.
Ooh. Yes, indignation, is that on the back?
That's on the first.
Front.
What's the pathos
It's
page?
right under negative emotion.
Oh, it's under pathos, yeah. Okay, so I go back to the question of morality. Is indignation morality? Because it's moving a little past its moral outrage, right? So I could kind of see that. I would also look at like, it could be a little bit of, I could say it would, okay, I mean, I could see you arguing that. I'd be okay with that one. So you could write indignation there too. All right. How do the images of destruction, so I want you to look at, like y'all are looking at all the things that we labeled, right? Or that we identified. How do the images of destruction combine with repetition to build emotional intensity? So where is the repetition? Our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom. Yep. And I also think there's repetition in like the active verbs, right? So we would also call that, I don't know if y'all have, talked about like parallelism. So just like in math, what does parallelism mean in math? Everybody does this, right? So it's the same thing when you talk about this. That's why it sounds like sing-songy, right? So you're kind of looking at the idea of airplanes flying is parallel to fires burning is parallel to structures collapsing. So that we can call parallel, but that parallelism helps this, is the idea of this repetition. So this would be repetition of form. Okay. So I like this idea of building because a lot of times we see that in a list or we see that in parallel, like parallelism, because we move from one to the next to the next. So how does that build our intensity?
It makes people more mad.
Okay, yep, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They realize more that it's like unethical or something.
Yeah, I mean, obviously attacking like any country like by surprise is unethical. But also we also looked at the emotions. So I would say that those are also paralleled. So it starts by disbelief. And then it goes to sadness. And then it goes to anger.
It's like the emotions you go through.
Yeah. And if we think about like, I mean, I hate to watch it. Have y'all like seen video of like
Yeah.
that day? Like I still like when they have like 9/11 day and they show it on like on all the history channels. I'm like, no thanks. This is a progression in like action. Something that is flying, something that is burning, something that is collapsing. Those all things are shown like in chronological order because they get worse, right? And this implies a choice. Like a choice was made for the airplane to fly into the building, right? That choice created fires that burned. The fires that burned ended up going into structures collapsing. So all those things are a choice that are out of our control, right? This also progresses in like disbelief is not necessarily negative. In this case it is, obviously, right? In this rhetorical situation, if you will, it is. Because as we watched the planes go in, we were like, what is happening? In the beginning, we thought that the first plane was like an accident. Like, oh, like the air traffic control must have messed up. Like, that's crazy. And then as they're talking on the news about that plane, you see in the background another plane coming while we're watching the first one inside the building, right? And as the news anchor on there, you see the other one circle around and come back, right? So now we're in disbelief, and now we're like sadness because now we know it wasn't an accident. Like, now we're shocked, right? Like we're like, can't believe that what we're seeing is happening. And then as it collapsed, as it progressed, then we got angrier, right? So those are the stages of grief. So how does the destruction combined with this repetition build emotional intensity?
Kind of like a domino effect.
Okay, yep. We call that kind of like a time of like chronologically, right? So I like the idea of a domino effect.
I was just gonna say it's like building it while like you're reading. Like as you're reading it, it's like the emotion that you're feeling.
Okay, yeah. Domino, I-N-O-E? I-N-O? I-N-O, domino, yeah, that didn't look right, but it's okay. Domino effect. Ethan, what'd you say, like progresses?
Yeah, like as you're reading it, that's what you're feeling.
Okay, so what y'all are both saying is like progresses in chronological order, meaning like how the order that it happened in the events, that's what we were feeling at the time. What we saw connected to with what we felt, and then as it progressed, it got worse and worse and worse.
There's build-up.
Yeah, so there's the buildup. And White, if we go with the idea of the domino effect, what does the domino effect mean?
It's, like it starts with like disbelief and it ends with more and more anger. Like it's slowly, your emotions are slowly going higher and higher and higher.
Okay, so when we have dominoes, right?
You know,
one leads to another. If one domino is too far, then there's no domino effect, right? So one leads to the other. So it builds up by the previous leading to, the next. So listen, all these responses here, that's going to be your analysis. So what we're creating is we're creating all the words that we're going to get to use for why this quote is valuable. So we struggled with that a little bit with Gatsby, right? And we struggled with that a little bit when we were looking at the Players Tribune. So now we can look a little bit more closely at what leads to what. Okay, what logical transition occurs between the tragedy and the claim our country is strong? So where's the tragedy talked about?
Everything before.
Everything before it, right? And where we see the claim, this right there, okay, don't laugh like ninth graders. The but, don't laugh.
Can you move the paper a little?
Oh, sorry, yeah. The but creates contrast. The conjunction but is contrasting things. This is true, but this is what happened. So, what logical transition occurs between the tragedy and the claim? So there's like this logical transition. So go to Logos. So I would probably look at reasoning and structure. So looking at just that part under Logos, under reasoning and structure, talk with your partner, which one would fit the transition of all the bad things that happened that day to our country is strong. So talk with your partner, see which one of those, I think one of those works. Only under reasoning and structure.
Visual examples of like what they were doing, or like Texas in general, they actually. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. I'm going to apologize now. Don't get your feelings hurt when I say no.
Okay.
But we need to work through. I mean, you already don't like me. It's fine. All right. So what's the first one that you think, which one do we think it could be under reasoning and structure? Harlow?
Oh, reasoning and structure.
Yep.
Cause and effect.
So cause, all these things are bad. Is the effect that we're good? No, so that doesn't work, right? What else? What else did y'all decide? Go for it.
Inductive reasoning.
It is inductive reasoning.
Okay.
So here's why. So it's not comparing two things at this point, right? Deductive reasoning is like, this is the main idea. Here's what we think, and then because all these other things are true, that's true. So inductive reasoning is all these things happened, but they have failed. So this is the contrast, right? So it would be more inductive reasoning.
Nice.
That's why I give you these sheets, because they should help you a little bit, right? So we're going through all the bad things. Like all the bad things are listed. But then we get to the contrast with the but. And then we're moving to a general claim. And the general claim is opposite of what's in there, but remember, his purpose is reaffirming the country's strength, right? Y'all, that's good thinking. That's solid thinking. Good job. So if y'all want to put your purple or your color sheets of paper on one side and your other one, come in tomorrow and we'll start right with paragraph 2. Good job, y'all. people have said y'all can't do this. Look at what I showed y'all.
Would that be Google's tacos for logo?
So that's on the Logos one. So Logos is always logical because it's inductive reasoning is because this is our claim, like, here are all the things that are wrong. This is the end claim, right? Yeah, I think I have it in my folder still that I haven't looked at. So yeah, just shoot me an email real quick so I can remember. I'm like, have a ton of papers that I have to like score, but yes. Good job, y'all.